Right now, without thinking about it, your brain knows exactly where it sits inside your skull. It knows how much room it has. That's not something you've ever had to consider. Send someone to space for 6 months and that stops being true. Their brain physically moves, it runs out of room. And by the time they land, in ways doctors can actually measure, the person who left Earth is not quite the same person coming back. That's not a metaphor. It's not just a changed perspective or personal growth. Something in an astronaut's body, their brain, their genes, even the tips of their own chromosomes, is measurably different than it was the day they launched. The real question is what's actually changing up there, and whether any of it ever fully goes back. Start with the part astronauts talk about the most. In 1987, researcher Frank White gave it a name, the overview effect. It's the sudden shift astronauts describe the first time they see Earth whole, a fragile blue curve with no lines drawn on it. In plain terms, something about seeing the whole planet at once rewires how people think about their place on it. Many describe losing, almost instantly, any sense of nations, of us and them. It's been reported by astronaut after astronaut across more than 3 decades of interviews, spanning different countries, different space agencies, different personalities. But here's what's strange. For a long time, nobody could say whether that shift was just a powerful feeling, or whether something was actually changing inside their heads while they felt it. Turns out it might be both. Because at the exact same time astronauts are having this experience, their brains are physically rearranging. In 2017, a team led by neuroradiologist Donna Roberts published a study in the New England Journal of Medicine. They scanned astronauts' brains before and after long missions on the International Space Station. What they found was a literal physical shift. With no gravity pulling fluid down toward your feet anymore, cerebrospinal fluid pools upward instead. The brain drifts higher inside the skull. A groove near the top of the brain, called the central sulcus, narrows and gets crowded as everything shifts. In their sample, this showed up in 94% of astronauts on long-duration missions. In plain language, for most people who spend months in orbit, the brain doesn't just feel different. It sits in a different place. That same fluid shift has also been linked to lasting vision changes in some astronauts, a condition researchers are still working to fully understand. So the emotional shift and the physical shift are happening on the same trip, inside the same crowded region of the same brain. Nobody has proven one causes the other, but it's hard not to notice they're tangled together, and it goes deeper than the brain. In 2019, NASA published the results of its twins study, led in part by geneticist Christopher Mason. Astronaut Scott Kelly spent 340 days on the International Space Station. His identical twin brother, Mark, a former astronaut himself, stayed on the ground the entire time as a genetic control. Same DNA, same starting point. A year later, their bodies were not running the same script. Scott's immune-related genes shifted into overdrive, almost as if his body were trying to work out a threat it had never encountered before. The tips of his chromosomes, called telomeres, got unexpectedly longer while he was in space, then shortened rapidly within days of landing. His reaction speed and accuracy on cognitive tests also dipped after he returned, more than they had while he was actually in orbit. Most of Scott's body did return to normal within about 6 months, but researchers found that a small fraction of the genes that changed, something close to 1 in 14, still hadn't reset. So the wonder wasn't only in his head. It was written faintly into his cells. Here's the part that's easy to miss. It would be simple to treat all of this as 2 separate stories, a beautiful one about perspective and a strange one about biology. But what if they are not separate at all? What if the same environment that rearranges an astronaut's sense of self is the same environment physically rearranging the seat of that self? Nobody can currently prove which way the arrow points. Scientists don't know if the brain's crowding changes how astronauts feel, or if feeling something that enormous is what the brain responds to by changing. What's clear is that the two are tangled together in a way no single photo of Earth from orbit ever captured. You'll probably never spend a year on the International Space Station, but you don't need zero gravity for a version of this to happen to you. Any environment intense enough, extreme isolation, a brutal training block, prolonged grief, even one overwhelming experience, can shift gene expression and leave a physical trace. Much smaller than an astronaut's, still real. Your body has likely been quietly rewriting small parts of itself in response to your own life for years. You've just never had an identical twin sitting on the ground to prove it. So next time you look up and try to spot the space station crossing the night sky, remember what's actually happening up there. Somebody's brain is drifting a few millimeters off its normal position. Somebody's genes are running programs they've never run before. And somewhere in the middle of all that, somebody is looking down at Earth for the first time, quietly becoming someone slightly different than the person who left. You don't need to leave the planet to do the same thing. You just need to go somewhere hard enough that it changes you back.